The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Big Ben Haslar presiding. Your eyes for the Honorable Judge Haslar. Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice. Today we're hearing the case of The People versus the Care Bears movie, a 1985 animated family film featuring the titular Care Bears helping orphans and a magician's assistant learn the meaning of caring, all while saving Earth. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, you are representing the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. I actually wrote a joke in here for you because I thought you were going to be the judge. I don't even know if I'll say it anymore. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I have a question. What the heck is a Care Bear anyway? I mean, they exist on an alternate plane. They intercede in human affairs. Are they gods? Angels? I'll have you know, ancient astronaut theorists suggest.
Yes! Not today, Mr. Schlender. Please steer clear.
Okay. So let us be charitable to get the ball rolling. Yes, this is a kids' movie, and yes, it is super targeted to the under 5 crowd, but we can still demand better in that genre with their own rules. And modern day hits like Bluey show us that there was, and always will be an appetite for well-crafted kids programming. Care Bears suffers from a poor plot, zero characterization, interminable musical numbers, and we can basically blame this for starting the 80s toy commercial as movies fad. So as hard as it was to care about this movie while it was running, try to care enough to find it guilty. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps we have this movie to thank for the 80s toy commercial fad. To prove as such, appearing on behalf of the defense is Mr. Greg Marlow. Please present your opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when I was asked to defend my client, the 1985 cinematic blessing, the Care Bears movie, I not only agreed, I said I would do it pro bono. Why? Because I care. And why do I care? Because the Care Bears movie taught me how. You see, I myself was a 5-year-old when the Care Bears movie was released. I was the film's target demographic. I experienced the film the way it was intended to be experienced, on a 19-inch television that was sitting on top of another non-functioning 19-inch television connected to a top-loading VCR playing a sticky video store rental from a translucent clamshell case. This VHS was exhausted from being cycled through every VCR dozens of times as every child in my hometown rented this movie over and over again. My younger sister and I sitting on the couch arguing over the popcorn because I was angry. I was angry that we were not watching my rental choice, The Never-Ending Story. And just as I was plotting how I might use magic to break the tape in the VCR, I heard Tenderheart Bear's words as if he were speaking directly to me. Magic isn't the answer, Nicholas. Your feelings can help you find the true answer. Now, of course, my name isn't Nicholas, but the power of those words touched my evil, malicious young heart. As I watched, Nicholas and I both learned the importance of caring, friendship, and the danger of books. Without a doubt, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, had the Care Bears movie not spoken to me on that day, I would surely be a mass murderer by now. And I am sure if you have watched the Care Bears movie yourself, you can say the same. This movie is a fine, upstanding film, and anyone who says differently is obviously possessed by a book of evil spells. Case dismissed.
Not quite yet, but thank you, Mr. Marlowe. But I'll inform you that the court watched it on Tubi with an ad blocker and not with a VHS. So keep that in mind. Mr. Schlender, you may present your first exhibit.
Thank you. I don't think watching this movie stopped me from being a mass murderer, but I probably will write a manifesto. But my point is...
Oh, that's worse.
Yeah, I know. So...
That is a paper trail.
My first point about the movie, Your Honor, and gentle people of the jury, is about the structure of the movie. And can you believe it is only an hour and 15 minutes? Because it felt like 3. So, what are we doing here? The Care Bears from on high decide to interject themselves into the lives of 2 surprisingly well-adjusted and world-weary orphans. I mean, honestly, do the orphans need the Care Bears to help them? And frankly, do the Care Bears even help them? They basically just kidnap them and say, oh yeah, the parents who are going to adopt you are there, but you're not because we accidentally shot you into alternate space. So, that's just even the orphans right at the beginning. Then there's the case of the magician's assistant, Nicholas. The Care Bears may have been better served spending more resources on this young man. They only sent the one bear. And again, what are they even doing? Tenderheart doesn't stop him from falling under the glamour of the evil spirit. He gets trapped in a cage that he could literally just flick his finger through to unlock, but he makes this weird heart swell out. I mean, he doesn't.
That was dope.
Suspension of disbelief, Mr. Slender. We'll let the cage stand.
It's like magic's not the answer. FYI, I'm using magic to get out of here. You know? It's like, what is going on in this movie? And then who the hell is this evil spirit? They're only bad because we're told they're bad, and they just so happen to want to wipe carrying out of presumably the entirety of Earth, maybe just this one small town. The stakes are never made exactly clear, and since we don't get any hint of characters or character arcs, we're constantly falling flat for what these people were and animals and creatures that we're watching on screen. Oh, what are they really doing? And ironically, it makes us not care due to this the stakes not being established. Now, we can forgive maybe we can forgive the Care Bears and the Care Cousins not getting developed. They are literally there to be the product, i.e., Mommy, I want the blue one, or Mommy, I want the monkey. So we can
Grumpy
stipulate
Bear.
that. Okay, but our inability to empathize or insert ourselves as the humans is what causes this movie to fail. The kind of kids that are taken to see toy movies are not orphans or teenage magician assistants. The kids seeing this movie are not leading a rough life.
Mr. Marlowe, simple question to you. What the hell is going on?
Well, so I think that you have to come at this movie from the context of the time. So what I would argue is that this is 1985. Nobody walking into the theater to watch this movie was saying, I've never heard of a Care Bear. This was a movie for young fans of the franchise. They already had their favorite Care Bear. They were clutching baby hugs or baby tugs under their arm and wearing a Hopeful Heart Bear t-shirt. So this was the 1985 version of, in my opinion, Avengers Infinity War.
Oh.
The fans were getting to see their favorite characters on a new adventure, and to top it all off, a whole new family of characters and the Care Bear cousins were introduced one at a time as the plot progressed. This is very similar to like, hey, who's that guy? Oh, it's Ant-Man. Hey, who is that person? Oh, it's Ultron. This is this building of a larger world that was already the fans were already familiar with. I actually found this story like quite interesting in that Nicholas was both the protagonist and the villain. He was the one trying to achieve stuff, and then the rest of the cast was an ensemble cast. Nobody was standing out as the main character. It took all of them together, and the ensemble was building. The plot of the Care Bears movie is a journey through multiple worlds. There's Care-a-Lot, the Forest of Feelings, and then Earth. It follows a similar story arc to the Odyssey, the Divine Comedy, and if we're wanting to point it at an animated film, Pixar's Inside Out. It's an epic journey. Simple stories exist to make room, I think, for the message, the character, and the emotion, like caring.
I want to.
There you have it, Mr. Schlender. Tolkien level development going on here.
It was funny. I was thinking about, Dante's travels here while I was watching a bear sing "Together Forever, Care a Lot." Okay, so
level 7. That's level 7 of Purgatory.
and that was the lion too, not the bear. The lion, singing voice by Harry Dean Stanton, very funny. Anyway, my point is, if you want to talk about how like the fans are going into this movie and comparing that to the rush you got in the Marvel movies when you saw Ant-Man showing up, Captain America showing up, those are all established characters. The Care cousins are all new in this, so you don't feel that swell of emotion when Lion-O shows up or Monkey Man shows up or.
So are you saying that they don't win you over, Mr. Schlender, like the new characters?
I'm saying they just show up. That's what I'm saying. Like, you have no emotional attachment to them because they're new and they just all have to take a minute to kind of explain their power. Like the raccoon's like, I can see everything in the dark. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like, so why do they need powers given to them at the end when the council meets? See, I was hoping for this nice political moment at the end of the movie when they're all around the table and Grumpy Bear's like, no, we can't let them in to Care-a-Lot. We have to banish them back to the jungle. And it's like, no, we're stronger together. But we don't get anything interesting.
You wanted a different movie than most 5-year-olds, I think. Mr. Marlow, I'd like to hear your rebuttal though on the Forest of Feelings characters.
Yeah, he's in the Council of Elrond.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I think it's a 5-year-old.
One does not simply walk into Care-a-Lot.
Well, so I think that the Care Bear cousins, I would disagree. I think each of them were in storytelling, you would call it a trifell cycle, right? They're attempting to get closer and closer to Nicholas, and they keep being posed with a challenge that was often caused by these spells that Nicholas was casting. And the Care Bear's cousin each had a unique skill that helped them get past that. But I think that part of this is a little bit of a found family trope, right? Like that everybody in this story is caring for each other, not because of some necessarily a familiar relationship. Like, it's the idea that you can care for everyone, and that caring is what pulls people together. So I think that was in the underlying theme of the story, and I thought the Care Bear cousins was actually probably the strongest part of progressing the plot. They were kind of out of the blue. Yeah, we didn't get to delve deeply into them, but you also have to realize this is the first feature-length movie in what ended up being like 9 or 11, depending.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
But okay, and stipulated it did lead on to an anime show. These characters are fleshed out a lot more. Moving on, like their stare powers, or like I was reading the fan wiki, and apparently Braveheart, he can shoot his laser beam once he gets one, and it makes other people brave.
Okay, well, question from the bench from whoever can answer this, because this was something I was curious about. What exactly does the Care Bear stare do? Because it seems to do different things at different times.
I think we could get. I kind of want to talk more about what caring means in this movie as a different point, Your Honor, but suffice it to say that the Care Bear stare is just a magic beam that does whatever the writers need it to do. I mean, that's just being honest.
It's a tricorder, gotcha.
The secret ingredient is love!
Yeah, essentially.
Papers is easier to
I do want to talk about another point, Your Honor. I want to move on to the music of this movie, because again, this movie is an hour and 15 minutes, and it has something like 6 musical numbers, and there's a lot of talent behind the music here. You have the Tower of Power, Carole King, the aforementioned Harry Dean Stanton singing the part of Braveheart the Lion, and the music is actually kind of well crafted. However, the kids singing it, the bears singing it, very, very grating. And the biggest crime for any musical number, whether it's a child's movie or something more sophisticated, is that they're singing about the things they just did. that is just padding out time. That is inexcusable. No, but it's true, though. I know it seems kind of funny, but that really is padding out time. Every single musical number in this is to describe the events that just happened and why they're still doing them. You know, like it doesn't actually move the plot along at all. It's like, oh, maybe we could be friends, and they start singing a song about being friends. It's like, well, no, you're our friends. Geez, it's still going. You know, like, it's a good thing you watch it on Tubi because you can click, you know, the 30-second skip up. Oh, okay, here we go. We're back to the magician's nephew.
Hey, no. If you're assigned and going to get paid for it, you have to watch every minute of this film. Are you saying you skipped ahead?
I watched this movie twice, but I have to admit I skipped the second
because
it was getting stuck in my head. You know, like the field, forest, Camelot, and Earth. Yeah, I just like how they keep saying Earth. Like Earth is a very, very different place. Like they are above it and around.
Easy
there, Mr. Juryman. But,
Mr. Marlowe, do you think they should have got Pavarotti or Placido or Domingo to sing these parts, or what do you think of the songs?
Or Jose Carreras.
I watched this film with my wife, who also rented this movie multiple times as a child, and we sang "Forest of Feelings," "Camelot," and "Earth Aren't Far Apart" verbatim after 20 years.
I believe it. It's the Wumbles all over again.
It is. It's the earworm. Like there is an earworm of a Carole King song. You know, there's also John Sebastian from the Loving Spoonfuls was one of the writers of some of these songs. I would argue I get the point you're trying to make in that the song does not progress the plot significantly in each song. However, I would use as an exhibit. If I asked everyone in this room to say their ABCs, they would sing a song to me, which I think is actually the real point of this. When you sing these songs were earworms to get to brainwash children into caring for each other.
I don't know if it hit that mark, you know, but that's an interesting theory, and actually it dovetails into what's probably going to be my final point.
I love it when that happens.
Me too. It's almost like we have structure, almost. I want to talk broadly about what the Care Bears represent. You know, so buckle in. There's going to be some history here. So, as originally conceived, the Care Bears were actually characters from a greeting card company, right? So, something to be given. And likewise, the toys, the actual plushies and things, represent a paradigm shift in the psychology behind children's toys. Because think about the popular toys before Care Bears. There was things like baby dolls, conventional stuffed animals. And these were opportunities for children to demonstrate their ability to care, right? You take care of your baby doll. The Care Bears flipped this dynamic, and now the toy cares about you. And this message is further enforced in the film. That is to say that caring is the act of receiving care. It's not the giving of it that is prized. The goal is for the orphans to find someone who cares about them, for Nicholas to find someone who cares about him. It's not about anything they can do. It's not about this self-care paradigm that we would probably talk more about today with today's psychology. And this can actually be borderline a bit toxic because we're basically telling these children, you have to find an external source. And this movie is so ill-defined and so sloppy with it, because I think you can make that message with some nuance, but this movie has none of that nuance, because we can see the evil spirit cares a lot about Nicholas, but caring isn't the same thing as loving. So the message ultimately is go buy a Care Bear so you can feel value. It's not something that's going to come from within. And I know it sounds like I'm painting with a broad brush, but that's the only brush this movie gives us to talk about something this complicated and this deep. So you want to talk about brainwashing the children? It totally is, and it's sending them completely astray in a wrong direction to look for external validation for things that should be coming from within.
Mr. Marlowe, is this akin to religion?
Is that what religion does?
Ken, I'm here to talk to you about. So I don't even know where I was going to go.
Have you let the lion heart into your heart today?
Yeah.
It was Braveheart.
Yeah. I'm wanting to look for metaphors in here. So let me try to wrap my head around this. I think, the idea that the point of the story was, if I'm understanding your argument correctly, is that Nicholas is only getting validation from outside, I think misses the one of the points, which is by caring for other people. That is where you that is where one of the places that, like, that's where the mental health is coming from. It's not only that Nicholas was not Nicholas was turning evil because he was refusing to care for other people, not because other people were refusing to care for him. That's why the caro meter or whatever continued to drop.
Please.
It's down to 5 out of what? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And no one will be able to care.
I also love that Grumpy Bear is basically a Care Bear who doesn't care. You know? It's like,
He cares.
he's
But
over it.
he begrudgingly cares.
Yes, but he cares.
He shares his caring.
He's
with
very
anger.
misunderstood.
But I do think that there's it sounds like the idea of caring is in the argument you were making is transactional. I'll care for you if you care for me, and I think the argument here is that the point here is to just put more positive caring out into the world to make it a better place. Yeah, I can see that that's a little like pie in the sky, or a little hard to a hard call to action, like go love everybody and make the world better. But I do think that was the more of the message of making the world a better place by caring yourself, not go out and look for somebody to make you better by caring for you.
See, I think broadly you're not wrong, Greg. I do think that's probably where the movie wanted to go. But with what we see on the screen, it does make it look very transactional. Like you need a Care Bear in your corner to pull you out of this spiral. And that's where this being a toy commercial comes into play. So, I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that they were malicious trying to brainwash kids into only looking for external validation. But because this movie is so ham-fisted, so short, and so overly padded with songs, they don't get a chance to explore that nuance. So it does come across as bluntly as I described it. And I feel good resting there, Your Honor.
Very well. The prosecution is rested. Mr. Marlowe, you may present your first exhibit.
Okay. Give me 1 second here to gather some thoughts.
No.
God damn it.
I'm going to give you my seconds just so. Just to counteract Ryan's.
Ooh, judges' seconds.
So I I prepared several arguments that I believed were going to be levied against my client, and I think arguments that would often be found in other reviews of why people may think that the Care Bears movie was not a strong movie. The biggest of which that I feel is important to bring out is the idea that this is not seen as a strong movie. I believe is a part of a gender bias that is rooted in gender bias. So it's just another reason a woman would rather encounter the bear in the woods. Our society.
What about a Care Bear in the woods?
Exactly. Our society has a long history of devaluing things that are, quote, for girls. It's the same gatekeeping that kept Ryan Gosling, got Ryan Gosling a nomination for an Academy Award, but not Barbie herself. if a story is not about action, danger, violence, fear, or money, boy stuff, then the story is deemed not important. The Care Bears movie is literally about a bunch of gender non-conforming bears who live in the clouds and spend all day caring for human beings who feel unloved. Girl stuff. So
Is that what girls
no.
Write this down, Ben.
No, I'm going to let it fly.
We've started to equate artistically valid with negative feelings. If we look at some of the most celebrated films recently, Saltburn, Oppenheimer, Killer of the Flower Moon, if you look at how they're described in the advertisements and reviews, you get words like devastating and harrowing and heart-wrenching. A film that brings you joy is devalued as simple because joy or happiness and love don't seem deep enough. And I just disagree. I think these themes are plenty enough to stand alone and to make this a strong movie. They're just undervalued.
What's wrong with caring, Mr. Schlender?
Everything. No, actually, it's funny. I don't actually disagree with a lot of what Greg said, but in the context of what the Care Bear movie itself is pointing out, because the things you're talking about we can find in other media. There is still beauty in art. It's not all just like drab anti-hero schlock, which I'm very much against myself. But this idea that the Care Bear movie is the answer to
Didn't you recommend
problems.
Spawn in this courtroom? I don't buy it.
Well, look, to say nothing of the numerous Charlie Bronson movies, which all go to dark places. No, but I appreciate the value of what you're saying. I just don't think that the Care Bear movie does a good job of articulating those values, because we're still seeing these sources of darkness. We're still seeing that aforementioned external validation that I brought up. It's not equipped to handle these issues in a substantive way beyond just buy a Care Bear so you feel better.
Well, it's for 5-year-olds. Mr. Marlow, you may present your next exhibit.
Okay. The other exhibit I would I would submit is the animation quality, which I think would, in some people's estimation, would be considered subpar. But this was a very low budget, very small team movie, and I think that they managed to achieve quite a bit with what they did. So I thought that this would be a good time to kind of go over the different ways animation is created. So if you compare a lot of animated movies at the time, I don't think you're going to find a huge difference in the overall quality. There are 3 types of animation that we see in this film. Some types of animation are more expensive and time consuming. Others are cheaper and faster to create. And so in order of most expensive to least, we have frame by frame animation, which is where there's a new drawing every frame. And so we call this animating on ones, or at least every other frame, animating on twos. So that's either 12 or 24 drawings for a second of animation. And this is the most expensive way. This is the method that Disney features and pretty much use all the time. Then there's limited animation, where most of the image stays unchanged, but one part of the character or object is redrawn or moved. And an example of this was in like one of the musical numbers where there's a line of Care Bears. Their bodies were all the same, but the heads were bouncing up and down, like bobbing up and down. And we still use digital versions of this all the time in 2D animation. And it's how most animated series are made. And then there were some scenes where it was just a still image that was moving a little bit. And this is, a single object or a background. And this is the cheapest, easiest way to get this done. With the size of the team and the size of the budget, if you watch the credits when it goes by, and I didn't get the actual number for the budget, but I feel like I read somewhere 2.9 million. I probably need to fact check that.
No, it was about 2 million for the movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with that size of a team, watching the film, you will see that they used a lot more of the frame by frame and limited animation techniques to achieve this. If you looked at the 2 previous films before, because this is the 3rd Care Bear movie that was made. The first one was like 45 minutes. The second, 23 minutes and 45 minutes. So this was a feature-length movie that was made by a very small team. And I feel like it deserves the recognition of what it accomplished technically. and with that size of a team and budget to be able to tell a feature or to be able to create a feature-length movie of this caliber. So,
Mr. Schlender, hand-drawn animation is sorely missed. Change my mind.
Well, if everyone just went to see Princess and the Frog in the theater, this never would have happened. But it is an interesting point. It was a limited budget. It was very Canadian, so I want the jury to weigh that heavily against this, mind you. I mean,
we love our Canadians.
We hear the voice actor saying "sorry" and "boots," and it's very unpalatable. The movie did perform very well as far as its budget was related, box office to budget. I think Black Cauldron came out after this, if I'm not mistaken, and that surpassed it for like highest grossing, but like the budget was something like 20 times more. Like it was a $30 million movie versus this being a $2 million movie. So it did do very well for its Spartan budget and clearly put a lot of work into the movie, but you have to put a lot of work into even bad movies too, so while I do appreciate
that's disheartening.
I know
Movies need the most work.
I know. So while I appreciate some of the technical prowess on display, I mean, we're not seeing anything particularly new or earth-shattering. I mean, even like the evil tree is very redolent of the tree in The Last Unicorn, which I hope came out before this, or else it makes my point look bad.
It did.
But you get my point. Oh, thank you, Ryan. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a lot of familiar beats and animation things we've seen before. Nothing terribly. There's not a moment in this movie when we watch it that makes us like stand up and go, "Oh wow, that's from the Care Bears movie." Like think about like when you think of like the Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia. Like the moving broomstick. Like there's so much iconic imagery that you can be had from animated movies, and there's nothing iconic here.
Well, we'll let the jury decide. Mr. Marlow, did you have another exhibit, or did you want to rest?
I do have one more. It's actually kind of a small leap off from part of the point that the prosecutor had made, because I think one of the easiest knee-jerk arguments that people could make for this, or make against the Care Bear movie, is that it was a way of selling more toys, right? And I would actually argue that that's actually one of the that's one of the positives of this film. So, yes, the film was a vehicle for a corporation to make money. So was many films. So, much to our surprise, almost all of them. That is why rich people agree to pay for artists to make movies. And sometimes that means a protagonist stops for a refreshing sip of Coca-Cola, or he chases the bad guy down in a shiny new Ford Prius. It isn't ideal in every case.
The Mustang was right there.
Yeah, man, I want to see a Prius chase, but they don't treat it like a Prius.
They don't. Yeah. It isn't ideal in every case, but in this case, it actually is what makes the story better. So the 80s saw a lot of crossover media leading to a world of multimedia that we would see in the 90s. I would say in that way, it is somewhat revolutionary. It's a new animated. If a new animated movie came out called Bears Who Care, no one would have went to that. It would not have resonated with the audience. These kids were getting to sit down and watch their best friend star in a movie. And we see this explored a lot more later in that decade with stuff like Teddy Ruxpin. It was experimental in a way. It was revolutionary. And those are both words that art critics often use to refer to art, which is undeniable proof that the Care Bears movie is a wonderful work of art.
I'm convinced.
Save it for your deliberation. Okay, I got to break out the ancient astronaut theorists again. I'm losing my...
No. Not in my room.
Well, let's hear them out.
So the
but
Care
did you have
Bears
any
are
rebuttals?
descended from Nephilim. Oh, wait, no, rebuttal to what Greg said? I don't know. That was a really good point, so probably not.
No Nephilim Care Bears today.
I just got conspiracy theories about where the Care Bears come from. Pages worth.
Save it for your fan fiction. All right. Well, both sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Schlender, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, look. The Care Bears are toys. We get it. This is a commercial. We get it. But we do have to look at some of the other filmic qualities presented. The story is not particularly strong. We have our main characters broken up for seemingly no reason, brought back together for seemingly no reason. I mean, to say nothing of the fact that Secret Bear just magically generates another key to destroy this book, and that the book could have destroyed the key the whole time. And it's like, what is this evil spirit? Like, what is the history with this evil spirit in the Care Bears? Now, I had this whole bit about how the evil spirit's really Lilith and the Nephilim again, but I'm not going to get into that. So, look.
You did pique my curiosity with Lilith.
So here we have not only the bizarre story, which literally ends just because it has to, and then, of course, you have this guy saying the last thing he says in this story, because keep in mind, this is Cherrywood telling a story at the end. He says, isn't having parents the best? To a bunch of orphans. It's like, man.
Read the room, Mickey Rooney.
That's how you're ending your story. And is his wife Kim? Everyone online says it is, but there's nothing in the movie to prove it. I don't know. So again, I'm going off on the.
They call her Mrs. Cherrywood.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm going off on the. He doesn't even take Fettuccine's name after everything he did for him. And okay, I'm sorry. Again, I'm going off on these tangents. What we need to understand is that we're looking at a story that's not particularly strong. We're looking at songs that when you see the talent behind them, like Tower of Power, that was the horn section of the late 70s and early 80s, and they got nothing to work with here. And again, there's no characters that are worth hanging on to, because the idea is you just want to go out and get the new toy version of Sir Hugs-a-Lot or whatever the hell they call him. So look, the Care Bears movie, we know what it is. We know it's a kids movie, but we know that kids movies can be better. We know that product movies can be better, like Transformers. So when you go into that jury room, gentle jurors, it's time for you to give this a good, hard Care Bear stare and come down on guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schlender. Mr. Marlow, you may present your closing argument.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I would ask you to consider why we think a movie is good or bad. How much of our opinions are influenced by public opinion of what is cool or hip or groovy? When I was 9 years old, my mom bought me a New Kids on the Block t-shirt because she heard it was a popular band. And I tried to explain to her that boys didn't like New Kids on the Block. Only girls like New Kids on the Block. But secretly, I did like New Kids on the Block. I listened to their music. I watched the cartoons. I knew all the words to write stuff. There was a cartoon. It was really good. There was an MC Hammer cartoon, too, that had magic talking shoes. Anyway,
BRB.
BRB. If you've labored all these years under the pretense that the Care Bears movie is a bad movie, it's time to examine why you think that. Are you swayed by talking heads telling you that if you don't get enraged or feel sick or cry during a movie, then it wasn't a good film? It doesn't have to be this way. We can heal the world. Take my hand, lift up your shirt so we can see that adorable birthmark on your tummy. Join me. Care Bear stare.
We can't afford the sound effect, I'm afraid.
Well, that's actually a Reese's Pieces.
Is that a Muppets tattoo you got there, Mr. Maynard? Thank you all. Members of the jury, Mr. Maynard Bangs, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, and Mr. Look Out, He's After You, Ryan Luis Rodriguez. Is that how the kid says it? I don't know.
Is that
I don't know.
It's the song.
Sing it for us, Mr. Schlender.
That's the one I don't remember. I just don't care.
Oh, fine. You have all heard the facts concerning this case. It is now to you to determine this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
Wait, look out. He's after you. That's it. That's the one.
Okay.
I did remember. Okay.
All right. Mr.
Wanna-
Look
you wanna
Out,
see it
he's
again?
after you, Ryan
There it
Luis
is,
Rodriguez.
yes.
Somebody remembered all of these songs. I'm just pointing that out.
It took a minute.
Oh, wait, I got a bailiff. Right this way? I wonder if the American Greeting Company would sue me for infringement if they also knew I had a tattoo on my arse, a heart tattoo tattooed on my arse. Dang it, I had a bailiff and I screwed it up.
I mean, you blew through the whole thing. I don't know. It
just
became a
one more
total
time.
mess there.
Yeah, you
Utter
can
mess.
take it again.
No. We got to do it live on the night.
Oh, man.
There's no bailiff. The
And
illusion
now
of
Ben
shame.
can sing a song about how he messed up being the bailiff.
Screwed up a lot is a place that Ben said.
Okay, gentlemen, what a piece of shit. Oh my god. When I was watching
Don't
this
let the
movie,
defender get his heart open.
I was thinking this must be a practical joke at my expense. The fact that somebody got me to watch this movie. Enough of this horseshit about, oh, it's for girls. I've never thought that the Care Bears were for girls. And even if they did, I love girl shit. Girl shit is better than boy shit. But this is shit. It's awful. I can't believe that Mike Natale, former guest on this show, gave this a gentleman's 8. What the fuck is the matter with you, Mike? Oh my god. There are literal commercial breaks in this movie. Not much of an effort was made to make it feel like an actual movie. And I am nostalgic for 1980s animation, mainly because I do miss dirt speckles. But when I see the words Nelvana animation in the credits, I immediately go, oh shit, this is gonna go wrong. And you know what? It did. And I don't remember a single damn thing about this movie. What I remember about this movie is seeing Mickey Rooney's voice in the credits and thinking, hi, Millhouse. That's all I could think of.
Jiminy Jillikers.
Isn't it
remember
great to have
the songs?
parents, kids?
Yeah, it's interesting that something this ostensibly empathetic was made in Reagan's 80s, but that's the biggest buzz phrase I can think of. I was like watching this the entire time going, is this the pilot of Care Bears? Because on Tubi, immediately after the movie was over, episode 1 came up, and it didn't give me enough time to select something else. And it has a later timestamp.
Episodes.
It had a timestamp of 1986, whereas the movie was 1985. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, they really did rush this into theaters. This was made to be played on television.
There were a
Oh my
couple of
God.
specials I saw online. There were a couple of specials before this, whether they were straight to VHS or not.
They had to be straight to VHS.
But what does
you
interest...
cannot be in a theater with less than 70 minutes.
Yeah. What did kind of impress me about this, it means that this didn't have the TV show to lean on to sort of introduce all these characters, you know, like the Transformers movie does. When you see the Transformers movie, you know everyone. In this, you don't know anybody.
With the Transformers, you have the toys already. You've read the comic book. You know these characters are that in the Transformers movies. It's through cultural osmosis. Even if you've never seen an episode of Transformers, you know who Optimus Prime is. I don't know who any of these damn bears are, and I don't care.
Sunshine Bear, Secret Bear.
Does not ring a bell.
Braveheart Lion.
You could be pulling all this out of your ass. It wouldn't matter.
There was a bear with a holy grail on it. I swear to God, I saw. I want to know what his powers were.
Care Bear stare, I'd imagine. But to me, that's like the fact that this has to kick it off. This has to set up the whole world. It doesn't have anything to lean on, and it's kind of one of the first of these big commercial. Right. I mean, there's a lot of these things in the 80s. I mean, the Ninja Turtles go through it. You know, Transformers, you know, all the boys stuff, quote unquote, went through it too. And I think Care Bears is something that was more girl as you got older. But I mean, young kids, you know, when you're under 5, you can watch whatever the hell you want. You know, nobody says anything. I think the idea is that loving is girly. I think that's the idea. Is that loving and being kind.
Which is bullshit.
And caring. Hey, I don't make up the rules. As everyone here knows, I am a out and proud member of the Care Bros, which is an adult Care Bear fandom. And before you ask, yes, it is sexual.
God damn it.
I think I watched the Care Bears a bunch when I was a kid because a bunch of this was memorable. I liked the songs. Carola is a place. I've been singing that all day.
That's the only one that stuck with me, though. I didn't remember.
It is, but maybe it's only because that's just the best one.
It is.
But plus I played it twice, so that helped.
One more time.
I'm sorry to repeat myself, but it'll help you remember. That did work. So I think we got a balance here of whether, if there's a plus here, it is the capitalization of this product and the sort of way that this rolls out this template that so many things followed to overexploit children, balanced with the fact that it's so sugary, saccharine, sweet that it is probably making children stupider by the minute.
It's giving them diabetes for sure.
At least. Let's hear from Big Ben. He's a big fan of these kind of shows.
Well, like Ryan, I was like thinking this was a joke. I was like, is this someone we gave a loss to in this courtroom? And he's like, screw those guys. I'm going to make them watch the Care Bears movie.
That won't work on us, folks.
Yeah. There are things I did like about it. I did like the song. I did like that the world seemed very well thought out, if even the pieces didn't connect together. But it like seemed like Thor with like the rainbow bridges
one,
and
too.
Yeah.
Like.
And like the meters and like that book with stuff. There's a whole lot of interesting things going on. They just didn't connect the dots as well as I would have liked. And if we're talking about intentionality, this movie does achieve what it intended to do. It sells a lot of Care Bears stuff.
Who's your favorite
and gives all the series.
Oh, it's the couple.
I like the lion. Well, no, I want to know what the Holy Grail bear does. I'm just super curious. But no, the lion was my favorite.
He enriches children with the blood of Jesus.
I don't know. In the fandom, he's the one into water sports.
Jesus.
Oh, God, Rob. Jesus Christ.
Hey, sorry, my cup runneth over. So what are we going to start locking it in then?
Yeah, let's start locking it in. Rob, I want to hear what you have to say.
I do think it's made for a young audience. It's kind of the first of this ilk, of which I think every Saturday morning cartoon show would soon be guilty of following. Some that I still love and watch. It just follows. Pokemon does this too, right? We're just gonna keep adding more. You got to get all the bears. Catchy enough songs. You're putting it on for a kid. It's not really meant for adults to sit there. I think I'm gonna let it skate by and let you guys do the hanging if that's what happens. So I'll go not guilty.
Ben,
Do I
think
wanna
of
make
what
Ryan
you
the
gave this
bad
on
guy?
Letterboxd. Think about what
Well,
you gave it.
We have to have something to appeals in the future, right? We got to make it sort of interesting.
Oh, God, this is going in a completely wrong direction, but okay, go ahead, Ben.
I think Ryan has forgotten how to care.
Yeah, right. We need to stare at you a little bit more. No, I think I'm going to go guilty. I'll let Ryan make the deciding vote. I do think it succeeds on intentionality, but yeah, it's just not interesting for anyone but 5-year-olds. So I've kind of harped on that before, and the whole toynetic thing. I've done that in Batman and Robin. I don't like the idea of art just to sell stuff. So I'm going to go guilty. And Ryan, you can do your swing vote now.
Geez, I wonder how I'm going to vote.
Swing, bada, swing. He's no bada,
Nope.
bada, swing.
We're going guilty, baby.
No.
Let's go tell that very handsome judge.
That wasn't as interesting as I thought it'd be, Ryan.
I made no promises. Ben?
Oh, that's me. Sorry. I totally forgot that was me. Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of, I guess it's called the Care Bears movie, we find the defendant guilty of being a bad movie.
Oh, you monsters.
Oh, come on.
Caring has died. You're right.
It's over. The verdict is so rendered. The Care Bear movie is sentenced to be lined up for a 21-bear Care Bear stare, unceasing firing squad until death. Court is adjourned.
Okay, I just love that verdict, though.
Hey, this is Huggy Bear, reporting to you live from outside the Reels of Justice. I'm not actually one of the Care Bears. Don't know if they don't know that or not. Telling Jay Schlender, would you care to share your thoughts on the jury's verdict?
Oh, boy. This was a tough one, I really want to be charitable when we get good, the animated movies. I'd rather have been in a position to defend it, but, this is the life we've chosen. So...
That's right.
And thank you to Greg for coming on, pro bono. And thank you guys for giving me double my fee. Now I know why. And we'll see you in the post trial. Thank you, Huggy.
2 times 0. Hey, and here comes Greg Marlow. Did you know I'm a human being and not a Care Bear?
Wait,
How
what?
did you feel? How did you feel about the jury's verdict?
Well, I'm very disappointed, but I care about them anyway.
Oh, the jury?
Yeah.
If you want to know where they live, I got the information on them.
I'm staring at them right now.
No, stop
right.
it! No, I'm sorry.
And that's all the time we got for the courthouse. We're going to go send it to post-trial analysis. Once again, I'm like a police informant or something. I am not a Care Bear.
Sorry, Greg, I feel bad.
Huggy. You got it right. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's what he is. He's not part of that show. Unrelated. Man, it is a bummer, but there's so much kids material where it's like, even if I'm comparing this to other kids material, especially in the fact that what are you gonna do? Show this to your kids? They're gonna love Care Bears, and now what? You can't get any fucking Care Bears anymore.
That's true.
You realize there's a
new animated
running,
show.
Yeah, there's an animated series that's still running.
Yeah, did you not hear what I said earlier? I'm a Care Bro. I know all about it. It's sexual, Craig. That's someone make that very clear.
It's funny. I watched this with my son. Yeah, he's a smidge outside the target demographic, but I told him, I said, "All right, we have
he's
to
slow
watch it,
though, so
and we have to find what we don't like about it." And we're like 15 minutes in, like, all right, what do you got? He goes, it's giving me kind of a Christmas vibe I don't like. I'm like, a Christmas vibe? What are you talking about, son?
I think
I only care once a year. Really?
I think he means that. I think he's talking about it being so sugary and sweet, and that's the kind of thing like all the Christmas specials are. They're they're overly moral, and it's all about lessons. So that might be what he was trying to express.
That's such a charitable interpretation from you, Maynard. I'm shocked, but you know what?
Well, there are no adult swings. What do you do when you're not here defending children's cartoons from grown men?
Was that addressed to me? I missed that.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Actually, I do several things. I teach animation at East Tennessee State University.
That came in handy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've lost 2 animated.
Well, you have to admit though the animation for this is super cheap, right? I mean, you were explaining even the differences between like what Disney would do.
It is. I think that to me, this one is has so much tied up in the nostalgia of the time. Like, I think that
the colors are excellent.
Yeah, and if you ask anybody from that era, if you ask anybody who grew up in the 80s, like they're gonna, which one is it? Is it Rainbow Bride? Is it, Strawberry Shortcake? Is it, the Care Bears? Like everybody has their sort of their favorite. I mean, I think that there's a handful of, it continued into like Ninja Turtles and like, what's the Mask and like, all of the different.
I love Mask.
Yeah, and I think that it was just
Pirates of Darkwater.
Yeah,
Street Sharks,
Anchor Mice from Mars, Cowboys of Moo Mesa.
Cowboys of Moo Mesa. But there's so many of them that like I don't think that any court case will ever convince anybody who loves it to not love it. Right? I think that there's something tied to the to having experienced it at that time that just like makes it good. I mean, I don't know. But
I think
you're not wrong. That is absolutely correct. Yeah.
I think you made a good point too. It's like I get to see the show or see the movie with my best friend in it. The toy I'm playing with, and there was a good point. It's more of this great cross promotion. And if you were a kid who grew up in it, all those shows are still so important to you because you didn't see them as commercials. They were, just the adventures that your Street Shark was going on. So I think that is powerful, and there's space for it. It would have been great if all the Care Bears had individualized powers, and we got to learn more about each individual bear. So I think
they do, though, don't they?
Yeah, you just have to watch the series.
Yeah, not the movie.
You go into the series, right? The movie doesn't have enough time to set up, and maybe there's just too many damn bears.
And I think it's interesting. Somebody had said that it felt like the pilot episode of the Care Bears movie, which is it's exactly what they did with the Ninja Turtles. The first, I think, 6 episodes of the Ninja Turtles was released as a feature film, and it was like Revenge of Krang or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's something they do. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think it did feel that way. And I think it's kind of hard to separate it from the rest of the property, the rest of the media that surrounds it as well.
Yeah. So. All right, enough about this. So what do you do? So we were talking about what you do. We mentioned animation. So what else do you do besides that? Back to
so I teach animation. I teach animation because I also do animation primarily for video games. I worked in the Civilization franchise, XCOM. I worked on most recently. I got to work on one of the Five Nights at Freddy's games. Oh, my cousins love that. Yeah, it's the one that's on the VR headset, and I don't have the VR headset, so I just have to watch Markiplier play it. But I have to say that is one of my claims to fame. Like, I think because of everybody watching Markiplier play my animation, like that's probably the most amount of people who've ever watched any of my animations. And then on the side,
however you get out there.
And then on the side,
so
and on the side, I do a little bit of writing, primarily science fiction short work, which is how I kind of stumbled across you all. I think Dylan had heard one of my stories. And
that's true. Prominently featured on LeVar Burton Reads. But you also had another story get read on a podcast shortly after your first appearance.
Yeah,
on the show. It was on was it Podcastle or something?
Yeah, Podcastle. It's like a fantasy
that's a great
podcast. Yeah, it's really good. It's part of the there's a science fiction, a fantasy, and a horror podcast all under the, I think it's called Escape Artists umbrella, and they do Escape Pod, Podcastle, and Pseudopod, I think is maybe something like that. But yeah, I got a fantasy story. I'm actually working on several others that I'm trying to submit right now. But as I mentioned, I teach at a university, and I actually just got through going through the tenure process. So that kind of ate a year of my life. And I wrote a whole bunch of boring stuff, and now I'm hoping to write more robots.
Well, now you got tenure and they can't touch you, right?
Yep. I'm just going to start.
Teflon, man. Yeah, you don't even have to show up anymore.
I'm not going to show up to class. I'm just going to. I recorded the last year. I'm just going to keep replaying.
Start parking in the dean's space. What do you like? What do you want, Dean? I got tenure, and you got nothing. Yeah. Now we always ask for recommendations from our guests for movies that you think people should see. So, Greg, what is a movie that you think people should see?
Well, I'm gonna throw a little bit of a curveball and not recommend an animated movie. I'm gonna recommend actually Harvey, 1950, starring Jimmy Stewart. Weird.
Big Jimmy Stewart fan, of course.
I love Jimmy Stewart. It's based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning play about the good-natured Elwood P. Dowd, whose constant companion is a 6-foot-tall rabbit named Harvey that only he can see. And so I chose this film because since college, it came out in 1950. I was not in college in 1950, but it's always been one of my top 3 favorite movies. And I've made it a habit to watch this movie every year or so just to remind me of what a good, caring human being is like. Elwood is kind to everyone for no other reason than that is just who he wants to be. And no surprise, the world thinks he's crazy for it. So, I mean, yeah, he also spends his day talking and drinking with his imaginary friend. But as Elwood would say, in this world, you must be oh so smart or oh so pleasant. Well, for years I was smart. I recommend pleasant. So the only place I can find this one is on Amazon Prime for $3.99, or you can come over to my house and we can watch it on DVD because it's an election year and I am due another viewing myself.
Well, that is a niche audience of people who are going to
bring the
come over to
beers.
your house and watch.
Yeah.
We'll try. No, Jimmy Stewart always has the movies that pick you up. You know, It's a Wonderful Life, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Rope.
Oh.
Schlenzo, what have you got?
Oh, well, I don't have a Jimmy Stewart movie, but
Well, it's not bad, actually.
So I brought my Jimmy Stewart with me.
Well, I love moralizing cartoon characters as much as the next guy, and it has never been more ham-fisted in our entire lives than Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue. Produced by McDonald's and released in 1990, we see a young boy struggling with his newfound druggy lifestyle. But who can come to his rescue? Get this. Everyone. That's who. I'm talking the Muppet Babies, Garfield, Winnie the Pooh, the Smurfs, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Bugs Bunny,
Daffy Duck. Even Alf gets in on the action. He
Eraser?
doesn't even try to... He doesn't even try to eat Garfield. But that's neither here nor there.
Inspector Gadget?
No. Look, if you were a kid in the 90s, this should have a special place in your heart. Undoubtedly, you saw it at least a couple times in school. And it is funny that this is an anti-drug PSA because it is the equivalent of a nostalgia speedball. It is on YouTube on at least a dozen channels. It was released on VHS once.
How long is it?
It's about
Like 20 minutes or
44
something.
minutes.
It's
yeah.
Okay,
about.
so it's like a
yeah.
TV episode. TV.
It's
Yes,
basically an
well,
after-school special. So yeah, it's
it
around
is.
that. Yeah. It's
Well,
that
I'll
way.
give you a little more of the history here, Maynard. So it was released on VHS once, and the VHS release actually has an intro with then President George H.W. Bush and Barbara Bush and their dog Millie, basically saying this is a drug PSA, don't do drugs.
The dog said that?
Yeah, no. And
How much did I have? Oh, no.
This was actually simulcast on every major network all at one time. And also, I've got one funny story about this
Finally.
movie. I know, right? I was a substitute teacher for a few years, and I was subbing for a teacher that I absolutely did not like. And she did not like me. And I opened her desk drawer, and Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue was in there on VHS. So I called the library, and I had a kid
Next to
bring
the whiskey
down
bottle? Or?
yeah, right. Come down, bring down a VHS player, and I played it for every single class, and I had every single student write a 100-word essay about the movie, and I left a stack of 100 essays on her desk, and I have no idea if she read them or what the heck she thought was going on, and I told the kids it was worth a quiz grade, so I'm sure they were asking.
And then Speedy Gonzalez hits Garfield in the head.
It's like, what is this? Yeah, so I never heard the fallout from that, and I'm happier not knowing.
Oh, I am going to have to track this down because it sounds super silly. And
You've
super
never
fun.
seen this, Maynard?
It's
I'll send you the
insane.
YouTube link.
It is out of its
I'm sure it
goddamn
is.
mind. It
Oh,
is
I mean,
I'll just have to experience it.
George C. Scott does the voice of the drug demon.
The drug dealer. That's
The
all
role I was born to play, baby.
Just the quote right there. George C. Scott does the voice of the drug demon, and that's all you need to know. That's the recommendation right there. Big Ben, what have you got for us?
For any of you who like the concept of the Care Bears movie, yeah, kids of divorced parents or orphans who hate the world, and these are your protagonists, yeah, that's cool. Being transported to a world of animals who will teach me to be good, that's fine. But it'd just be so much cooler if the bears were samurai who taught kids how to hold the sword that's in their souls. Well, then I've got the film for you. It's Mamoru Hosoda's 2015 animated picture, The Boy and the Beast. At its heart, The Boy and the Beast is about father-son relationships, deadbeat ones, surrogate ones, and how these relationships funnel down into self-realization. And fun fact, it was created by the same person who created Mirai, which was the very first ever recommendation of justice that I did. Hosoda's whole body of work is interesting, and if you've worked your way through Miyazaki's animated films, he's a good director to jump onto to have his filmography explored as well.
No, he does not like to be jumped onto. I can promise you that. So wait, they're bears, or they turn into bears?
There's a spiritual world of animals, and like the sensei, this one boy is a bear.
But they're
Like
not
Kung
cute.
Fu Panda.
Oh.
Kung Fu
Ryan,
Panda
what
for
have
Best Picture.
you got?
My recommendation this week is another recent release that has nothing to do with the case, or does it? Jane Schobrun's film I Saw the TV Glow, which follows a high schooler whose obsession with a canceled television series throws his life into a tailspin. It's definitely an effort that cautions the audience to question nostalgia, But given that the fictional series, The Pink Opaque, is equal parts Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Are You Afraid of the Dark, and The Adventures of Pete and Pete, it's a time in my life that I would love to travel back to and make wiser decisions. It's a lushly photographed picture with a hell of a soundtrack, and speaking of hell, Schoenbrunn is developing a hell of a voice. I can't wait to see what she does next. As of this recording, I saw the TV Glow is still in theaters, these magical places where you can watch movies with total strangers with picture and audio that's probably better than your home system. But whatever. By the time this drops, you can find it emanating a glow from whatever streaming service handles A24.
The reasons you named are the reasons people aren't going. But, I was
on their phone the whole time.
I was devastated when they canceled Tailspin.
Oh man, now
really
there's a bear warrior who teaches you how to grab your inner sword or whatever the hell.
It's Baloo, right? That's the Jungle Book cast. You know, the days are starting to warm up again, maybe. What remains of our tattered seasons are, I don't know. Are they trying to turn? I don't know anymore. In fact, the near best way I can tell that summer is coming is that the drive-in is open again, which means that I can go back to the movies in comfort and luxury. And this weekend, I happened to take in a screening of the new George Miller picture, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Because if we didn't put a Mad Max saga in the title, you wouldn't know what franchise you were watching. It follows the exploits of young Imperator Furiosa as she ascends to, I don't know, is it prominence? Amidst the struggle for power between various warlords of the wasteland. This was a movie that everybody was asking for, just not like this. I never wondered before how Furiosa came to be Furiosa. I just assumed she was good at driving and killing people. Thank God this movie came along to clarify that how she actually did it was by being good at driving and killing people. Phew. It suffers from the classic prequel problem that prevents it from ever creating the same tension as its predecessor, and completely forgets to introduce any new meaningful characters for you to become invested in along the way. Oops.
Hey,
However, he's clearly the baddie. That's not no. You weren't ever going to root for him. However, what I did appreciate was, of course, the action-packed driving sequences, goes without saying, including the vehicle designs, of course. Also, the further exploration of the wasteland, especially its tumultuous, let's call them politics. Chris Hemsworth is pretty entertaining as Dementus, but not in a way you haven't seen before. Once again, Hollywood, please stop making prequels. You're not good at them. We could have spent this money on a movie following another character in this universe, one who hasn't already had the best part of their story told.
That's a recommendation with a WR at the beginning. Jeez.
Hey,
he's right, though. I mean,
it's true.
I happened to see it at the same drive-in. It was a coincidence.
Yes. I hated that. The best thing if you don't like
the whole time.
If you don't like the people at the drive-in near, you can just move and drive away.
Oh, this is true. Maynard and I saw a woman sitting in the front
No, I'm not
row.
telling this story at all. It's too sad. I will not have it told. It is too sad. But needless to say that Furiosa was only the second best movie we watched at the drive-in that night. And maybe you'll get to hear about another one another day. But for now, we're all out of show. But we want to thank our guest, Greg Marlow, for joining us. Thank you so much, Greg.
Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
We're going to have you back. No more Care Bears, though. No more.
The Rock-a-Doodle. It's time.
I say get away from animation. Honestly,
yes,
the jury is just not into animation, seemingly.
Yeah,
they're jerks. Or at least you got to get Dylan in the jury. That's the other thing.
I need to find something more broody, I think.
They are broody. They're moody and broody.
More broody than Rock-a-Doodle.
They are
Rock-a-Doodle.
All they do is watch The Crow on repeat over and over. But we hope everyone else will join us again as well as the Reels of Justice keep turning.
Count it.
Gentleman's 8, Mike?
I do want to hear his argument.
Does Mike use the gentleman's scale?
His comment was, it was on.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.